Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. The night a guest called the office, accused the front desk, and ended up with an unexpected confrontation. The second story. The rise and fall of a 24-hour mobile locksmith company ends in betrayal, standoff, and legal reckoning. The third story. When a guest crosses the line, confronting racism and intolerance in the restaurant industry. The first story is, that time a guest called the police on me. Back we go to 2018 at the legal garden. Why do all my stories take place in 2018? Well, we lost multiple major corporate clients and had to rely on third-party opaque rates. And these rates also included breakfast at the time. Needless to say, we were attracting quite the interesting cast of characters at the time. Luckily, the rates have increased. They no longer include breakfast, and policy changes have cut down on the number of sketchy characters staying, although some still show up. This story starts with a noise complaint. Normally, the policy is to contact the guest being loud, but the complaining guest wouldn't allow that and demanded to be transferred. I transferred the guest, and as no one was on the other side of the loud guest, I decided to let sleeping dogs lie. I saw they had a second night, so I made a mental note for the following night. The next night I arrive and I find a family in the hall by pool using every swear short of the N-word. Both mom and kids were swearing, and saying everything from SH to F to C. I can immediately assume what room they're in. While the PM associate is still at the desk, I get a call about the room that was loud needing a blanket or towels. I deliver the items to the room. The room is a bit loud, and I ask them to keep it down. I did say they would need to leave if it continued, but as it was a kid who opened the door, I wasn't going to follow through on the threat. I get back to the desk, and PM is picking up the phone. All she said was, "I'm sorry." She hangs up and says it was the mom from the loud room. The mom was saying I was threatening her and yelling at her kid. PM eventually leaves and I begin my shift. I notice a man who looks like he might be with the loud room go to our business center. A minute later, I get a call about the loud room being loud again. I head towards the room and notice who I believe to be the mom by the pool. When I get up to the room, all is quiet, but a kid poked their head out of the door and asked, "Is everything okay?" I ask where their parents are, to which they say downstairs. I go back and find both parents in the business center. I inform them that we had a noise complaint made and ask if one of them will return to the room. Both parents refused. I repeat myself, but again am met with a refusal. The mom then claimed that when she called, my coworker told them it was okay as I do this all the time. I tell her I was at the desk when she called, and my coworker said no such thing. The mom then, in the most smug expression and condescending tone possible, said, No, you weren't. She demanded the manager's phone number. I provided their business card, and she gets upset that calling the number goes to the front desk. I tell them again that one of them will need to return to the room, or they will need to leave the property. They say they will sue if I don't let them stay. This results in the "since you've mentioned legal action, you'll need to leave the property" speech. They refused, and when I said I'd have the police evict them if they didn't immediately vacate the property, they said they would call 911 and claim I assaulted them. Both of us end up calling the police. The police arrive and do a double take when the parents say I assaulted them. The officer even looked to our bartender who was watching the scene. I should explain that I'm scrawny, and our bartender also works security on weekends. While our bartender was a big guy, both parents would make him look skinny. When their story fell apart, the parents then changed their tune and claimed I was being mean to them. They tried to get the officer to make me let them stay. The officer asked if there was any way I could, and I say no. They asked for customer care, and I provided the number. We go to the room for the eviction. The dad tries to film it and claims I don't like people like them. Inside a room with just one bed and a sofa bed are 6 kids. Eventually they leave and I get back to work. Both the bartender and I had a laugh about what happened. I soon get a call from customer care saying the family complained about how mean I was, and I repeat my story. I tell the agent I know it's my word against theirs, to which the agent says a dejected "I know." I then get a call from a sister property asking about what happened. Apparently customer care booked the family a free room. I repeat my story, and the other FD agent says, "They didn't tell me that part." The second story is the death of a company. I've been a locksmith for many years. I'm good at what I do and smart enough to figure out issues that come up. The setup. I was working for a 24-hour mobile locksmith company in the largest city in our state. When I came on, there were 2 guys who owned the company and 1 other mobile tech all working out of one of the owner's garages. We all ran our own vans with company cell phones, and being the new guy, I worked the night shift. The owner and the 3rd guy ran the day shift. Usually the night shift was 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We were paid a small hourly wage and a commission on jobs. This was great because I ended up performing thousands of dollars on vehicles and house unlocks, making keys for vehicles, re-key houses and businesses due to me being on the road. Most 24-hour mobile services are guys at home monitoring a phone. Most of the time, they do not want to go out, so they overprice the call hoping the customer will call someone else. And they do. They call me. The build-up. While working there, I became their top producer. I made hundreds of dollars per pay period than all the day shift. Because of this, the owners decided to hire 2 more guys to run the owner's trucks, allowing them to sleep nights. They also ran on the day shift due to the large demand for scheduled jobs. The company grew quickly, and they opened a store in front in a popular strip center and an expensive full page in the yellow pages, before the internet took off. They ended up leasing more vans, and at one point we had over a dozen vans, and a dispatcher and plenty of work for everyone. We continued to grow quickly, and the money started to roll in for the owners. I was moved to the day shift, and a few new guys worked night shift. The tipping point. One day, one of the owners rolled up in a new truck he purchased through the company without letting the other owner know. He bragged about using it to meet with customers and doing site walks. And what do you know, the next week the other owner also purchased a better truck, also through the company, also without telling the other partner. They then brought their wives in and put them on the payroll as bookkeeper and office manager. Well, here comes the issues. One of the owners decided to buy a house and use the company as collateral, without telling the partner so, and a few weeks later the other owner did the same thing. The crash. Because of the owners being successful and because of the additional business expenses, some changes needed to be made. First, they stopped paying commissions on jobs. But the slap in the face was they didn't tell anyone till the payroll went out. Then we got an "oh yeah, we forgot to tell you" speech and no raises to compensate for the difference. Over a few weeks, half of the crew quit. The owners started getting desperate. They started demanding we work overtime. I usually didn't mind a little overtime, but it gradually became every day. The fateful day. I worked a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. shift, and because both night crew drivers call off, they demand I work overtime till I can get relieved. As expected, I did not get relieved. Running a constant 24-hour shift was hard, but because of a lot of coffee and plenty of work, the time flew by. Now I was expected to work my day shift. To this day, I do not remember much of that day, but I remember the end of the shift. It was 5:45 p.m. and I was asked to call the dispatcher. I called and was told, "I know it's the end of your shift, but I have 2 more calls for you to take." I answered no. I just worked 36 hours and I was falling asleep on the freeway to my house. He insisted, but I said no and hung up. As I get home, one of the owners calls me. "Owner, you need to take these calls. I pushed them off due to us being busy." Me, "I can't. I've been awake more than 36 hours straight and I was falling asleep on the way home." "Oh, I don't care. Get these jobs done, then you can go to bed." M, "If I fall asleep on the road and crash, you'll cover all the expenses and cover my salary till I'm healthy again?" "Oh, no, that's your responsibility." M, "Well, my responsibility says go to sleep and get rested for my next shift." "Oh, you need to take these jobs or else." M, "Or else what?" "Oh, or else you'll be in big trouble." M, "What are you gonna do, make me work more? Cut my hours? What?" "Oh, you will see." I hung up. My wife ordered me to quit immediately. So I opened my van, took out my personal equipment and tools. I drove to the office with my wife following behind me. When we get into the office, I park the van in our secured parking lot and I go into the back door to the dispatcher's office. I toss him the keys and cell phone and said I quit. Turned around and walked out to the wife's car and she drove home. And slept the sleep of the dead. The reckoning. At 7 o'clock the next morning there's an earth-shattering banging at the door. I chambered around and placed it in the back of my waistband as I headed to the door. Opening the door to face the owners who I spoke to the night before, he begins yelling loud enough to alert the neighbors, so they come out to see what's happening, ordering me to return everything I took out of the van last night. I explained I only took out what was mine. He would not believe me. He demanded to search my house for his stuff. I laughed and said in a quiet voice, no. He started to push on the door to open it up more, so he could come in and I held the door with my foot wide behind it. Side note, I'm a member of the neighborhood watch. The leader of the watch who lived across the street came out and was watching from her yard. We had hand signals for issues we needed to address, and one of them she used was should I call the police. I signaled yes while he continued to scream and call me a thief among other things. After a few minutes, he then did the unspeakable thing. He shoved his shoulder against the door hard enough to knock me back a few feet enough for him to enter my house. The look on his face when I pointed around in his face and said, "I'm legally allowed to defend myself." This is the exact moment the police arrived. They came to the door, seeing me pointing around in his face while I had a big grin. Police asked me to drop it, which I did, and asked what is going on. I explained, and the neighborhood watch captain and a few other witnesses also explained the same thing. They asked if I wished to press charges. Of course, I said yes. He was charged with assault, breaking and entering, disturbing the peace. It was early in the morning. 2 months later, he refused to plea bargain. At the trial, he was convicted and sentenced to 18 months and 5 years probation. By the time he got out, he lost his security license. The other owner bankrupted the company, sold everything, took all the money and moved to a new state. He had his house foreclosed and they repoed his truck. The last I heard, the guy was bagging groceries and divorced. The third story is when a guest chooses to be an A. Hey y'all, last time I posted we had just went through a really bad weekend, and I just want to thank y'all for your support. We've been healing, and honestly grown a little closer to each other. But on to tonight. I'm finishing up end of week inventory, and one of my servers comes up and says, "I'm about to go off on 41. I ask what's up and she tells me he's being kinda racist, asking her if she has a green card or filled out an I-9. I go to see if I can get a vibe from this table and see another server talking to them. It's two dudes, and one is speaking loudly about how we need to get rid of these spicy women, and just have burly bearded dudes as servers. I'm bearded and tattooed, but at 5'7" and 140 pounds I wouldn't consider myself burly. But dude still grabs my arm after I approach the table and says, "Like this guy." I ask him to let go of me and if everything is okay with his meal. He says yes, everything is fine. It's 30 minutes until close, only one other couple at the bar. Figure maybe since I made an appearance and made it known I'm the manager, he'll cool it down. I tell the server I'll finish the table out, and I hang around up front just in case. Of course, he chooses to keep running his mouth. What is Margarita's problem, I wonder? Rolling hard on the R's. Some mucho caliente SH and just other thinly veiled racist BS. I go over and politely, calmly, but firmly tell him I will not tolerate guests abusing my staff, racial or otherwise. He tries to play dumb, says he doesn't know what I'm talking about. I tell him he's a grown man and knows well what I'm talking about, and reiterate that it will not be tolerated. Do we have an understanding? Yes. Good. Have a lovely meal. But of course he couldn't let it go. So I tell him we don't want his business and ask him to leave. He claims the Mexican stole his card and he's not leaving until he gets it back. She didn't. Check hadn't even been dropped. He insists. I suggest we call the police to get to the bottom of this. He relents and magically finds his card in his wallet. Swipe that SH, hand over the receipt and pen. I hope you enjoyed your last visit to franchise. Please do not come back, as we will have a criminal trespass warning issued for you, Mr. Doe. Best part is the guy he was with wasn't a friend or a family, it was his effing Uber driver. Guy said he found him laying in the street when he picked him up. His destination is about 400 miles away in the next state. Poor man was mortified. I'm still new to management, so I probably handled it wrong, and none of it felt good, but I still can't think of what else I should have done. I really don't get the choices people make sometimes. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Have a good day.